don't we hear from Mr. Priest next?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Roy Priest, and I am the CEO, Executive Director of the Alexandria Redevelopment and Housing Authority. I'm very glad to be here tonight to talk with you about the Ramsey development. I'd like to start my presentation by really citing a comment made by one of the residents who lives at Ramsey Homes, and it was done at one of our hearings we had. I think it was in April sometime when we had a hearing before the Planning Commission. Not before the Planning Commission, before the City Council. This Ramsey, Mrs. Walker said, "I just want neighbors to understand that the construction of a new unit will benefit the community as a whole. There are working class citizens who cannot afford to live in the neighborhood in which they have grown up. That includes me." When we undertook the development of the Ramsey home, we looked at, in fact, how it was compatible with the set of plans that were already in existence. And we looked at the Alexandria City Council Strategic Plan, AHA's 2000 Strategic Plan, the City Housing Master Plan, the Braddock Metro Neighborhood Plan, and the Braddock East Master Plan. And as the staff has stated in their proposal, that our proposal is substantially consistent with both broad and specific goals and intent of the Braddock East Neighborhood Plan, a 2008 amendment to the Braddock East Metro Area Plan. In particular, the Small Area Plan identified Ramsey as a redevelopment site that would require rezoning. In terms of the compliance with and recommendations of the plan, it talked about diversity of population, a range of accessible and active, passive, open spaces. It talked about priority to residents wishing to remain in their community, maintaining a critical mass at each development to create a sense of community for public housing residents, to ensure public housing units are integrated into the community. All sites should include a mix of public housing and affordable and workforce housing where possible. And the public housing units should be integrated throughout the new development and not concentrated in any one location. It also talked about the fact that all new developments in the planning area should incorporate underground parking, which we do. Existing above-grade utilities should be incorporated below grade with the redevelopment of each block. We comply with that requirement. And then occasional deep setbacks of buildings to create landscape front courtyards, street corner plazas, and similar open space, and our plan complies with that requirement in the plan. So why are we here? We're asking for a master plan amendment, rezoning, and a DSUP to increase the FAR from 0.075 to 2.0. This would allow us to, in fact, be able to accomplish the redevelopment and sustainability of the 15 units that exist now. One of the things that we have looked at very hard is, in fact, how other factors like transit-oriented development and other principles that are in the Braddock Beach Plan speak to that point. The reason that we really need to have the FAR is because in order to be able to finance the redevelopment of those 15 units, you have to have a critical mass of other affordable units. And the number that we have arrived at for that is 38. Now that 38 is also essential when you do the application and we go through a screen to do the analysis of what our project is against the application you submit. You have to score a certain number of points to be in the competitive range to compete for tax credits. In order to be able to have enough points to fall within that competitive range, we need an additional 38 units, which gives us 53 total overall units. And that's the main reason why we, in fact, are asking for the FAR increase that we are doing, over and beyond what the plan that was proposed and was done in 2008 required. We also intend to maintain the affordability of these 53 units for 40 years. And in the Braddock Metro neighborhood, it speaks about mixed income housing being required to generate significant financial returns to be reinvested in the redevelopment. This is what we are doing. There needs to be a sufficient amount of housing to retain a sense of neighborhood for everybody, regardless of income. And also the plan speaks to redeveloping public housing sites without the opportunity of public housing residents to live in new developments would, in fact, punish them by displacing those who are poor and who represent some of the neighborhood's longest-standing residents in order to make room for new, more affluent residents. A mix of public housing and market-rate housing, where possible, and elements of affordability and workforce housing should be done through the development process. These are all things that were embedded in the Braddock East Metro Plan, in which we have been complying with. And the solution for that is to, in fact, improve the quality of life for the 15 households who currently live in that community. As you look at that, in terms of these units will be the first, in addition to the 10 affordable units that have been built since the plan was done. And since that time, there have been over 949 market rate units built in the same Braddock area, and only 10 units of affordable housing have been built. The 15 units that we are replacing don't count as new affordable units. They are affordable now. We're adding 38 additional affordable units for persons between 40, 50, and 60% of median income. This will contribute to the affordable housing stock that exists here. 40% of the demand for affordable housing in the city is at incomes of 60% or less of AMI, which is currently $109,200. So we would have a net gain of 38 additional units. And in fact, the plan states very easily, and also states in the strategic plan for the city's housing master plan, it speaks to the fact that increasing, not only just sustaining what we have, but increasing the supply of affordable housing is a goal of all of these plans. And so this project begins to speak to that. In terms of the sustainability to the city, and that is the fact that we are going to build a site-based waiting list that gives preference to income qualifying municipal employees. We want to, in fact, allow for the affordability of these units to attract and retain new employers and the skilled workforce in the city. One of the things I've heard before, and it's true, is that such a small portion of the workforce here in Alexandria can actually afford to live here. So this begins to provide some additional housing that can attract that workforce to stay here in the city and work in the city and enjoy the benefits of all the other residents and owners who live in this community. So we want to provide well-designed and managed affordable housing as a neutral point to begin to provide increased tax assessments and revenues to the city through the work that we have done and will continue to do. We want to create mixed-income communities that help break down the barriers that develop when there's a polarization of any incomes or population groups. So a broad mix of affordable housing is a key element of a truly sustainable community, which is what we're trying to do with this development. And in terms of long-term sustainability, it's also through critical mass. And we have asked, for example, to look at retaining residents in their community, prioritizing them in terms of access to transit services, jobs, amenities, quality schools, maintain a critical mass at each of the developments that we do to create a sense of community for public housing residents and to ensure feasibility for efficient management and provisions of supportive housing, and to ensure that public housing is integrated into the community. Those are the goals we have set forth in our plan and are set forth also in the Housing Master Plan. We went through extensive community engagement as part of this process. The number of meetings were cited in the report that was given by the staff, and this is just a list of all the organizations that we met with as part of the process of essentially advancing the Ramsey redevelopment. So this was probably one of the most significant outreach efforts that has ever been done, that we've done, in terms of simply getting one project done. But it was essential because people had a lot of interest, a lot of questions about it, and so we felt it was important to reach out to everyone in the community we could as part of doing that. We had a meeting recently where we presented where we were to the community. And one of the persons who was in attendance at that meeting, who was Melissa McMahon, she wrote a letter to us and to the city, which she sent you a copy of it. And in that letter, she talked about several things that she observed while she was there, that existing residents of the current public housing units spoke up clearly and respectfully in favor of the redevelopment proposal, and to explain how important it was that all community members have dignity in their homes. She talked about the long-term sustainability of affordable housing requires fiscal realism, and this is a project proposal she felt was very realistic in accomplishing that goal. And also, the chief found that the project team here was aware of the necessity of the major principles of design the chief felt were captured in the proposal. Also, this is just another itinerary of all the meetings we had and who attended those meetings. And before I end my comments, I would like to conclude my comments with the way I started, with a resident speaking for themselves.
I've lived in Ramsey Homes about 11 or 12 years now. I was born and raised in the city of Alexandria, and I am noticing a big change in the area. And the other areas, like across the street from me, you don't recognize from when I was growing up here, and it looks very nice. And I'm liking the changes that I see. They're talking about the reconstruction of Ramsey Homes now. I think it's a great idea, and I'm not understanding the people opposing the demolition of the housing here. These units are quite old. I understand that some think they're historic, and they very well may be. But they are not ADA compliant. When it comes to the plumbing systems, we shared that with a neighbor. So when I wash my clothes, I'm sure my water fills up in my neighbor's sink, as does my neighbor's water fill up in my sink. And so I would prefer that not happening. There are 15 of us who live on this site at this current time, and those of you who have bought your homes around us, this was always considered a low-income housing project area. We're trying to move it towards the future and make it affordable housing for others could be able to live here. And you should have done, I think you should have done your homework, because it's always things changing around us. I know things have changed around me as I've sat here for the last 11 or 12 years, and I haven't heard a whole lot of complaining. So as we're trying to move to change this particular site and demolish it and rebuild it from the ground up, I hope that you would be open to changing this development and bring it up to code. We would like change, we would like new. I think as a tenant here, we deserve change, we deserve new. Some of us can't afford to own our own homes. I would like a unit with air conditioning built in it, for my husband's sake as well as my sake. We're not in the best of our health. I just hope that you're open to change and think about it. When you bought your home, you knew that this was low-income housing.
And Ms. Mealy speaks for herself, who's been a resident there for 12 years.